Welcome to the Lowcode Digital Transformation Podcast. We are pioneering the future of low-code enterprise application development. We guide business and IT leaders to fast and cost-effective digital transformation. My name is Richard McGurr, and I'm joined by Josiah Adams, my co-host.
Hello, everyone.
How you doing, Josiah?
Fantastic today. How are you, Richard?
It's a beautiful day in Hong Kong.
It is.
So we're software industry professionals with about 25 years of experience between us in software development and digital transformation. And the conclusion that both of us have come to individually is that there is basically no reason to create any enterprise internal software product on anything except low code.
That's correct.
That's correct. And so one of the things we're going to be talking about today is why Agile has failed the enterprise and why low code is the solution.
Quite provocative.
Yeah, and there's really a lot of reasons for this. A lot of it has to do with some of the blind spots of Agile, of things that are like explicitly not mentioned in the Agile manifesto. And as well as why these blind spots specifically match up to the strengths of low-code platforms.
Yeah.
And so what we're also going to be talking about is when is low-code the right choice, which of course our answer is going to be very often. Well, actually not as often as you think. To be honest, most business software, if there's an off-the-shelf tool, you should use the off-the-shelf tool. I mean, assuming that it's not insanely prohibitively expensive. Where you start getting towards low code is the gap where previously you would have had to make the decision that we're going to be doing a custom application, with like Java or PHP in the back end. We're going to be hiring a dev team, capturing requirements, going through the whole shebang. And that, recently we are blessed, honestly, as practitioners, to have an incredibly powerful new tool in our arsenal, which is low code. And that, yes, low code has been around for a long time, over 10 years easily. But, I still feel though that the moment is now. The moment is now, but we're still, this movement, if I can like take the liberty of calling it a movement, is just getting started. And that we're going to kind of call take a shot like Babe Ruth and say that, in 10 years, I think we're both confident that 95% plus of internal IT products are going to be done in low code.
It's what makes sense.
Yeah, it just does. And that there's not a reason why, we're waiting because of 10 years, is that this is just if you've read the book Crossing the Chasm, it's just going to take that long to educate the market and have the mindset change. But yes. the tools are ready. The tools are ready.
Yeah, low code has existed now for many years.
Yeah.
But now these tools have really reached the maturity necessary.
Yeah.
Where it's not risky to go with them anymore.
Well,
They're
and
proven, and they have the tooling that's needed for solving your problem.
Yeah, that's why I didn't mean to interrupt you, but what I was going to say is that there are no longer like huge constraints that are going to say like, oh yeah, we can go low code on this project, but we're never going to be able to do this and we're never going to be able to do that. I mean, at this point between us, we kind of feel that the only remaining constraint is like full UI customization. And I don't even mean like, oh, how many fields can I have? I mean, like you need your exact branding. It's mostly a branding question.
Yes, branding and in some ways UX in some edge cases, but in an enterprise app use case, these are not priorities.
Especially an internal tool.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's really where, I think for commercial products, it'll get there. There's already products like Bubble where you can create enterprise software as a product, which you are going to go then and sell. But what we're kind of going to be talking about on this show, since it's a digital transformation show, is that we're going to be talking about internal products that companies create, or where the IT department or a business leader has been given a mandate to digitize a process. What do we mean by digitize the process? We mean this is currently run on email and spreadsheets, and there are, of course, all of the problems that come with email and spreadsheets, like security, access control, the ability for any user to copy and paste it into their own spreadsheet and then email it to somebody or take it home. Yes, it's hypothetically possible to go into Office 365 and manage people's, like, what was the version history here? What was the version history here? That is not an ideal solution if you said, we just noticed that column D 246 is not what it's supposed to be. When did it change and how did it get there?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can, like, I guess, hypothetically go through every single version that you have saved in Excel and go find that. But, you know, I think we can all agree
No
that
one wants to be there when the focus is on
accountability.
yeah, when there's a lot of value on the line, and your answer is, well, you know, we're going to dig through Excel files to try to find the answer. That is
Who
not
changed this and
acceptable.
why?
No.
Yeah, and like, how can I make it so that I need my entire department needs to be able to view this spreadsheet, but let's be honest, there's only 5 people that should be allowed to edit it. Yes, technically possible on a spreadsheet. You're still there on a spreadsheet. What if it's like, I need these 3 people to manage columns A through E? Let's say, for example, that's the name and the address of an account. Let's talk about if we're talking about a contact list of companies, of like vendors or something like that. And that they're like, these people can manage account data, these people can manage order data, and these people can manage audit data, and these people can manage finance. That's not possible on a spreadsheet, you know, and it is the status quo that a lot of people live with, you know, like we're willing to say that with digitized operations where they are in most companies, you know, yes, they've solved the big problems. They're on Salesforce, so their CRM is covered. Their accounting department is on SAP. So yeah, the books are good and nobody's making payments without permission. And no one is like recording financial transactions without opinions. That's great. Okay, what about the gaps in these tools? There are still, like, let's call it, this is an unscientific guess, but let's say that there is still 90% of the operations and processes that run a business that are not in software now. And that, like, why is that important to get it on the system, Josiah?
Well, there's many reasons, but let's start from this point where so many enterprises are. They have critical business processes that are running in Excel and email. And traditionally, to move them out of Excel, the question was, well, are we going to build a fully custom app to move this business process into a software application? And there's so many business processes
because there's no off-the-shelf solution,
right?
Or there's no off-the-shelf solution that, you know, like, fits the way we do business,
right? And so this has led to a question for so many enterprises: are we going to invest in building a fully custom app to solve this problem? And for many problems, the answer has been no historically, because for a number of reasons, including it's just incredibly costly. It's not
risky,
our expertise.
And it's risky.
Yeah. And who wants to be accountable for a huge budget for a software project that didn't turn out successful?
Which most don't.
They don't.
Yeah, most
that's
don't.
what
Like,
the statistics are.
70-80% are going to be like, oh, well, we learned our lesson.
Right. And with Excel and with email, one of the advantages that brings is that, well, it's what already is working. You know,
and it's supreme flexibility.
Exactly. As your business processes change, and they're always changing and updating, it's very adaptable.
Because a user adds a new column.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to start tracking the annual gross sales to this account. CRM, so CRM solved. Mm-hmm. Like, let's just say it's a vendor. We need to start tracking our annual gross purchases per vendor. Add a field.
Right.
Sum these columns.
Done.
Yeah.
Right. Done. And that's great, right?
Oh, it's awesome.
There's great advantages to this, but in that flexibility comes
you have the cost of failure
of management oversight, right? You lose control of what's happening with your data, what's happening with your business process. a lot of business questions are very difficult to answer because now your data is spread out across tons of files and lots of emails
Yeah.
on different file servers, who has what version.
Oh, yeah.
It's really reducing the ability for the enterprise to move forward in a lot of these cases. And so when you kicked off this episode, we said that we're going to be talking about how Agile has failed the enterprise.
Yeah.
And so Richard, could you introduce a bit about the relationship between, in the past, enterprises have been confronting this question: are we going to go full custom? And then how that relates to Agile. Like, what is Agile, and how does that relate to building a fully custom app?
Yeah. So the question is really like, is it worth the investment to move this process into software? Mm-hmm. And then, there's no tool that we can just buy that meets our needs. And that is the cost of this vulnerability or risk management enough that we're going to invest in full custom. And that cost and risk is very high in a full custom development, and also the amount of time that it takes. And where this gets you to is saying, yes, I need a software project. Then, and that we realize that we're speaking to business leaders, we're speaking to IT leaders, and so we need to establish some concepts. So we're software professionals. And so when we talk about Agile, we know exactly what that means. And that the IT leaders listening to the show knows exactly what that means. So what is Agile Software Development? Agile Software Development is what's called the Software Development Methodology, or what we call SDLC, Software Development Lifecycle. And software development lifecycles are the management science and best practices that you apply towards analyzing a business problem or a use case, designing a solution that meets that use case, and then handing that over to the coders in IT to go and whip up some code. Would you agree with that definition of what SDLC is?
Yeah, so kind of a visual analogy for Agile is you have a destination in mind. You have a goal state.
Yeah.
You want to get to the top of the mountain. Today, you're not there. Today, you're at the base of the mountain.
You're on the spreadsheets.
And the question is, how do you climb the mountain? What is the process by which you go from the bottom to the top? And Agile is a framework that can be applied to plotting a course up the mountain. And Agile has, it's been around for a very long time, and it does have its places, and it has its value. The key idea behind Agile, I would say, is about iteration and about managing uncertainty, managing risk.
Can I take your metaphor?
Please.
So no one's ever gone up this mountain before.
Yes.
Which means that you do not know the path.
You have to forge
You
it.
just know that I need to be there. No one's ever mapped this mountain out because it's a business problem that has never been solved because there's no off-the-shelf solution. There's no pre-existing system. Mm-hmm. And so, I got rivers over here and I got like steep rocks over here. But nonetheless, I can't just from 10 miles away look at the mountain and say the path goes.
You may think you know the answer.
Yeah, you think you do. You always think you do. Yeah.
Yes, but Agile is a tool set to help you navigate uncertainty.
Yeah. And that's because, to fast forward a bit to where our 25 years of software experience is that I just want to emphasize, you don't know. From 10 miles away, you do not know which streams have piranhas in them. You do not know which rocks are covered by bushes, and you're like, oh, this is unclimbable. We can't get through here. You just don't know. And so how would you say, if you could sum up the mentality of Agile and how does it meet, or should we switch here to discuss what was the original way of doing software projects?
I think it's
useful
to identify before Agile. The idea was, all right, we are very smart people, aren't we?
Yeah.
Right? We're experts.
We have a podcast.
Yes. And you in your industry, whatever
Or
that
your
may be,
functional team, if you're IT. Yeah.
you understand your business, and you can say, okay, we understand what we need, and what we're going to do is we're going to write that all down.
Yeah. How do we do business today?
Yeah, we know everything.
This guy talks to this guy and then fills out this form
Yeah,
and sends this email.
Yeah, it comes from a place of a lot of confidence and a sense that we can fully map the terrain before we cross it. We're going to make this big master plan. We will plan all the blueprints of this cathedral, this beautiful cathedral, and then after we finish all this planning, we'll then just go and build the thing. And then after it's built, everything will work fantastic.
Yeah.
And we'll have this utopian end state.
Yeah. The plot, or the course that we plotted from 10 miles away looking at the mountain was accurate.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that we have assigned a budget of $1.8 million and 10 IT resources and hired a vendor.
And we know exactly
made these
when
designs.
It will be done. We know it will take this much time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It comes from a place of feeling as if you really understand the terrain.
Well, it's like
before
building a
you've crossed
building.
it.
They
Yes.
can like max it out and say, I'm going to need this much lumber and this many, iron posts, and then I'm going to build it because it's a building. It's not like when you build a building, you know what the bathroom's going to look like because there's a well-established pattern of what a kitchen looks like.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And where so what we're describing now is a process which is traditionally known as waterfall.
Yeah.
And so Agile came in with a set of observations about how this waterfall process would fail based on this false confidence. Because as you are climbing this mountain, you discover, wow, the rocks here are slippery, or now all of a sudden it's snowing.
I need a new piece of equipment.
Outside. Yeah, exactly. Things are changing. And even the mountaintop may change. You might have been first climbing one given summit, and then all of a sudden leadership comes in and says, oh, you should actually climb this slightly different summit instead.
Yeah, our audit requirements have changed, and we require you to capture X data in addition.
Yeah, so waterfall fails to respond effectively to changes in your initial assumptions, and Agile is a way to better adapt.
I think it's because waterfall sets expectations to management.
That they have
where
this
you have
master
made
plan.
commitments.
Yeah,
because you can do change
that's a very
requests.
good way of putting it.
And look, it's not like no one has ever submitted a change request in waterfall. Like, no, of course they have. The issue being is that you've given an expectation to management that you're going to complete this project in 6 months at X dollars, and it's going to work like this.
And this is one of the reasons why so many software projects fail.
Yeah. And then, so now talk about you've talked about how Agile made observations that these are unrealistic expectations, given the fact that unlike many other engineering projects in software, you don't know the solution.
Yes.
Because there's more human factor in software, I think.
Yes, there's so many human factors. But can you elaborate a little bit more on your question?
Well, what I meant was that like we've just laid out the unrealistic expectations that lead towards waterfall getting a bad rap. And I think you can talk to any software development person in the world, and you'll say, we're going to run this project on waterfall, and they're going to get a big eye roll.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll try to be diplomatic. But the world, like basically everyone is already in some form or another at least attempted at a superficial level to adopt Agile. And so
but I think we should still go more into like the prescriptions of Agile and how they
can you elaborate?
Well, I mean like sprints and how there's an unknown destination, like by definition. And that, well, in pure Agile, which we'll get into like why pure Agile does not work in business, is you're saying we don't know how long it's going to take. We don't know what it's going to look like at the end of the day. And we cannot tell you what it's going to cost.
Yeah. So the distinction we're making here is that Agile has failed the enterprise. We do believe that Agile actually can be a good fit in some cases.
Well, it's proven
for
is.
for the enterprise, there are distinct economic pressures, which can often lead Agile to fail. It so often leads Agile to fail. So with an software development, you can break down the business case, the economics behind this, in no kind of oversimplified way. We could say that all software products that people build are either targeted towards the commercial market, or they're targeted to some kind of internal enterprise market.
Could you expand on what you mean by commercial?
Sure. So this is the commercial use cases. You can characterize it as
intellectual property or something.
The better, right? Our market is not constrained to a fixed size
or an organization,
or at least to one single organization, right?
Yeah.
It's generally with a commercial product. The idea is, we see a large and growing market. We're going to build this product, and the better that we make this product, the more of the market that we can monetize, and the better that we can capture that market and monetize that market.
Yeah, so you're not saying I'm making a product for my accounting department. I'm making a product that 40% of the accounting departments in the US, if not globally, will use.
Yes. So that's commercial.
And that's leverage.
Yeah, right. Whereas when we're speaking of an enterprise,
which is our audience,
application, which is what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
We're talking about a software application that is built by your organization for your organization exclusively. This is not a product that you intend to resell to third parties.
Yeah.
It is for yourself. It's your internal IP and your internal IP only. You're not selling this to anyone else. Mm-hmm. And this fundamentally impacts the economics of Agile. It's deeply related to why Agile projects often fail in the enterprise. But I think in order to explain this better, I think we need to explain more about how the value creation over time in an Agile project can decrease.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we need to explain, build up a little bit more of the background. We've identified how there's a number of issues with waterfall and how for a long time now, the industry has moved to an Agile methodology. Could you talk a bit about how this Agile methodology works? Like in short, what is this?
Yeah, sure. So what Agile says is that given that this is a mountain that has never been climbed before, charting a course to the top will be a process of discovery. What does this mean in practical terms? Is that we do not know the best user interface for how our accounting department is going to process asset requests on a regular basis. What is the data they need to see to give a yes, no? What is the fastest way? Like they're saying, if I have this piece of data, like if I know that it's this department and I have this sign off, then I don't even need to see it. I can give just a yes. So why doesn't your software just see that I have this yes and then, free my day up so I can go do real work instead of paperwork?
Yeah. So with Agile and with this analogy, like this visual analogy we're using of climbing to the mountain, what Agile is doing is it's breaking down the problem. It's decomposing the problem into smaller pieces. And it's saying, we can see with much more confidence, let's say the next 100 meters, than we could see all the way to the top of the mountain. So what we're going to do is instead of planning in detail every step of the way up from the bottom of the mountain, we're going to iteratively plan. We're going to do, let's say, 100 meters at a time. And we will first make a detailed plan for that 100 meters. We will then climb that 100 meters. We will reassess the situation, and then we will make a subsequent plan based on what we now can observe with more clarity.
Yeah, because you're like, there's a cliff in front of you. You can't see what's on the other side of that cliff. Mm-hmm. However, once you get up that cliff, you're going to say, oh, okay, now I know what the trail looks like.
Yeah, so you're always gaining information as you go.
Yeah.
So let's plan things when we need to plan things. So Agile also has a very important relationship with the political and like the human realities of software development. Because often with a waterfall-based project, what can happen is that it could be 18 months into even longer sometimes, into a project before anyone sees the value being delivered from that project. Mm-hmm. And inevitably, as you're going through a software project...
Why don't we give an example? So in order to kind of anchor this into real terms, let's create a example project. And I think we should go with, let's say, an order management system, because every company takes in money, which means there's an order. And that, of course, you need to provide some good or service in exchange for that order, which means that you need assurance and guidance in order to, at the end of the day, maintain quality of saying, I need to make sure that we know how to deliver on this order, and we need to make sure that the process is followed on this order to make sure that we have consistent output. And that you're all business folk, so I'm hoping you guys can deal with this level of abstraction.
Yeah. So say we're talking about let's be concrete. Let's talk about the order management system for a multinational enterprise. Mm-hmm. And as a multinational enterprise, there already is an order management system.
Yeah.
Which in this case, let's say
it probably lives in the accounting system.
Yeah. It's a combination of, maybe it's based in your accounting system plus, a collection of various spreadsheets and emails and various business processes all just kind of held together with glue and string. And it's this big rat's nest, basically, of complexity. And
there's no quality management.
Yeah.
There's no resource allocation.
Yeah, like management and leadership of the organization, they have several goals they hope can be achieved. For example, we can increase our revenue quite a bit. Let's say in our sales, if we can have better visibility into this process, we could better understand what's happening in our company. You may see great opportunities to reduce costs by making this process more efficient.
Or reduce lead times.
Yeah. And you can have a desire to reduce a lot of risks in the business, because if you're using spreadsheets, then who can access and who can modify data is just out of control, or very challenging to control, let's say,
or someone can enter an order that was like a fat finger, as the finance guys would say.
Yeah.
And that they accidentally put 1 million.
Yeah, or like, hey, I'm going to put my own, I'm going to put my brother's bank account number on this invoice, and let's see what happens.
If he gets paid. Yeah, and then I'm going to the Bahamas. And
goodbye, everyone.
See ya.
It's been a good run. So there can be a lot of business goals behind making this new order management system, and the details here are not important for this discussion. What does matter is you and your company, you have business processes that you want to make big improvements to. And oftentimes this process can be a long journey. And we've already been talking about the waterfall process. And if you're using the waterfall process, What would often end up being the case, and we're definitely not suggesting this, is that it might take you, say, 18 months, 2 years, from the very beginning of kicking off this project to replace the order management system before anyone sees anything.
Yeah, before a single order is entered
into this system.
Yeah.
Before a single member of the organization is actually running this system and trying to make use of it. Mm-hmm. And then, as we've been talking about, what often happens with this waterfall-based process is that you go through this whole 2-year life cycle. People start using it for the first time, and they're like, "This doesn't work for me." And further, it's important to talk about the political realities inside of your, let's say this multinational enterprise.
Or any enterprise.
Yeah. Because leadership is going to need some clarity. Like, you have to give some time estimate. They're not going to generally, if you're very lucky.
So you've made these promises,
Yeah.
and we've agreed to give you this money.
Yeah. Here's our budget. Here's our timeline. Here's our mission. Go. Right? And with a waterfall-based process, what almost always ends up happening in reality, you get to the end of your budget, you get to the end of your timeline, and if you're lucky, you actually have something for people to use at that point, but they'll be like, "This doesn't solve my problem."
Yeah, you forgot this field, or
Yeah.
the fact that I need this manager and this manager to approve a system before it goes to accounting, and the way you've built this now, it immediately goes to accounting as soon as someone has filled out the form.
Yeah.
Which means that accounting is drowning in completely ridiculous requests.
Yeah. And even if you planned everything perfectly, which you won't.
You didn't. No offense.
Over the course of the 18 months it took you to build this, the business process has changed.
You have
and
new products.
You're out of date.
Yeah.
And so now let's talk a bit about Agile and how Agile takes a different approach to delivering this software system. So one of the key ideas behind Agile goes back to the politics that we were talking about. And this is definitely not the only place that Agile comes in, but it does have an important place here because Agile respects the idea that inside of an organization, you need to be demonstrating the creation of value. You need to be able to demonstrate that early and consistently.
Well, you need to prove that you're delivering on the promise you made in exchange for money.
Yeah. And if it takes you 18 months to do that, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Or if you need more and you've delivered nothing.
Yeah, and now you have to go back to the well and beg.
Yeah.
Not good. So what Agile, one of the things, okay, so how is Agile different? Previously we've been using this analogy of, climbing the mountain. And with waterfall, you're trying to make the entire plan for climbing from the base to the summit all from the beginning before you ever leave the base.
Yeah, because your CFO was like, "What's this going to cost?"
Yeah. And you still have to make some kind of high level estimate with Agile.
Yeah.
But with Agile, what you're instead doing is you say, yeah, okay, we have this very high level kind of abstract roadmap to get to the top, but it's low resolution. We haven't filled in every detail of exactly who's going to be working on what on week 32. We're not there yet. Instead, we could kind of have this high level idea of where we're trying to get to, and we're only going to plan in detail. Let's say at the very beginning of a project, let's plan the next 2 weeks. Let's plan the next 100 meters up the mountain. And then after we've climbed that 100 meters, we can
first
plan
feature.
the next, the first creation of value, meaningful increment of value. And so Agile gives a set of tools to help you and your organization
it gives you the
deliver
mandate.
Value faster.
Yeah, and the way that it does that is that it says that you must produce working software on given intervals.
Yes.
And not just working, but usable. It says this
And
must be
value
usable.
creating.
Yeah. It must create value. So to go back to our order management system, or OMS, as we may shorten it to in the future, is that you're going to say the first thing I'm going to build is the user-facing form.
Yeah.
and that it makes it so we're going to roll this out to one department, and when they want to put in an order, they are going to, instead of sending an email, which was previous, they are going to fill out this form detailing the information that we need to know about this order. And that then the, let's say, manufacturing team will receive a list that they can see and they can sort and they can search. As in they can say, I only want orders of this product type or from this region. And that's much more useful than a ton of emails.
Yeah, and an easy way to demonstrate the creation of value through this process is, within the first iteration, let's say you might create visibility for management with some reporting tool, let's say,
in real
that
time
they've never had before.
Yeah.
And this is one of many techniques where, you get people excited. They're like, yeah, let's do this. This is awesome.
Or without having
we're excited about where this is going.
Yeah, they don't have to jump through a million hoops to see who's the highest performing sales team.
Yeah.
And that have the sales territory manager of every territory spend a full day on PowerPoints.
Yeah.
Where instead they literally open the dashboard and we can say that you have this many sales from this person, this many sales from this person, by region, by whatever, because we captured all that data. It's in the system. Hooray.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So
this is the happy time.
Yeah. Yeah. So you with Agile, you have a way to very rapidly deliver some value. But we started off this episode by talking about how Agile is failing the enterprise.
Yeah. Well, and that we're telling the happy part.
Yeah. And the happy part is when you're at the beginning of climbing the mountain. Because so I think we need to kind of give a bit more background here about what's actually happening as you're with every iteration that you take in this Agile software development process.
For example, we need 10 more fields on the order form.
Yeah. We need to cover one more department or one more business case, one more business process.
Or one level of approval.
Yes.
That we forgot about.
Or another set of details in the permission management system, right? So every time you complete a new iteration of an Agile software development process, not only do you get more features generally, but it means you have more code. Mm-hmm. What's happening here is that the surface area, you kind of think of it as the surface area is expanding of this entire application, right? You start with no lines of code written, right?
And then, no user data.
Yeah, like you start with no code, no data, and then the existing surface area at the beginning is 0. And so with the first iteration, right, your ability to expand the surface area is high, right? You could expand the surface area very quickly at the beginning. But every time the surface area of your existing app is increasing, right? Now you go to plan the next iteration.
And it introduces something that we call dependencies.
Yes, exactly. So now let's say you want to add a new field. And an example of a field might be, say, an order ID or the name of a customer, right? So now you want to add a new field to the system. Well, because the surface area is already large after you've completed several iterations.
For example, we have reports. We have auto-generated emails. We have approval workflows.
Yeah, like permission management, reporting.
Yeah.
So now as the surface area is increasing, every change to the system has more dependencies that are affected by that change. And so the total amount of work required to introduce a new update into the system
is exponentially larger.
Yes, and it
For
grows
example,
exponentially. Yes.
I need to add this new field to every report. I needed to add it to every single new email that we generate in the system. It actually turns out that it affects the approval workflow, because if this field is A, then it goes to this manager, versus if this field is B, it goes to the other manager. And that, let's say we're in week 20 of the project, that's still not a big deal. Multiply this, go think about now year 3 of the project, which you've succeeded tremendously by the time you're in year 3. And now these little tasks add up, and this task that would have been a 2-man day change in sprint 2 is now the entire development team, which has grown to 15, including testers, and is now a 2-week change and requires the user interface to be updated on 16 different screens and requires the APIs that you have generated to be updated, which requires the systems that your application is talking to on the other end of that API. Those need to be updated to accept the new data as well. And now this change request is quite literally 100 times. That's not even an exaggeration, the cost.
Exactly.
And you will not find that in the Agile Manifesto.
Yeah. And this is just a natural consequence of this expanding surface area and the expanding dependencies that come with the growing
Complexity.
maturity of a product.
Yeah.
And so going back to the politics of an organization, we talked about how it's so important to be creating value, demonstrating value creation over time. And the consequence of what Richard was just describing is that your value creation over time is collapsing.
Especially to go back to the commercial versus non-commercial product, is that the reason that Agile is being adopted...
Commercial versus enterprise.
Versus non-commercial. Commercial versus enterprise project is that in a commercial app, yes, your marginal cost of a feature is growing exponentially, but so is the marginal value of a feature, because from 1 month to the next, you have, let's say you're an incredibly successful software company, you have 15% more users every month regardless.
Right. Very, exactly. And however, if you are building an enterprise software application, your target market is essentially fixed.
Yeah.
And what's happening here is that the marginal cost of adding a new feature is growing exponentially, but the marginal value
it's fixed.
Is fixed.
Yeah.
Generally. And this is not a good place to be. And this is why we say that Agile has failed the enterprise.
Yeah, because in a commercial situation, you're like, look, this change request cost me $4,000 $3 years ago. Now it cost me $40,000, but that's okay because our revenue is enormous and always growing. And
say you're Facebook,
Yeah.
how much does it cost to, add a button somewhere?
A ton.
Yeah. And, but it's worth it to Facebook.
Yeah, because they've got 1 billion users.
Yeah. And if you are building something for your enterprise and, you say, oh, hey, we need to adapt to the new accounting standard from this year. And to do that, or even a smaller change, like, we just need to make it so that, normally this order would be routed to this department, but now it needs to go to this other department. Even a simple change, adding a salutation, like, is it Mr., Mrs., to a given form. Something as trivial as that, you might go to your development team and they come back with something like, this is going to take weeks.
Yeah.
And you just look at them like...
And you go, why? And then they go,
this is ridiculous.
The email system, the reporting system, the approval workflows, the database, the API. And these are valid.
Yeah.
They're not trying to mess with you. And you just go, oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Sucks.
Yeah.
It's not good. And it runs into the economics, right? You have to be demonstrating value consistently throughout the life cycle. And
you're losing credibility at this point.
Yeah, and you're in trouble. And so I think now might be a good time to introduce...
Shift to why is Lowcode the answer to this? Because what we've basically said, to summarize this conversation, is that Agile is probably going to be great for your internal product, probably through year 1.5, in my opinion.
And so here we're talking about a fully custom app. And so can you talk a little bit more about what you mean by a fully custom app?
I mean, you have people writing Java and PHP on the back end. or you have a interface designer who is creating whatever you want. You have a full front end application. What we mean by that is that like a web page that has completely custom coded.
Right. So maybe for to give a visual kind of intuition behind this, when we're talking about a fully custom application, you can kind of think of it as, say, you're trying to build a given tool to be working at that at the molecular level. Like you're trying to rearrange the given atoms. And when we're talking about using low code, instead of manipulating individual atoms, instead you're building with Legos. You're building with larger components, which can still be customized for your context.
Like we talked about a form.
Yeah, but every form may be have some things that are unique, but there's a lot that's in common across forms.
A name field. Yeah, or I need a field that inputs text.
I need a submit button.
I need an email validated field without having to handwrite all of the email validation. Like, is there an @ Is there a dot?
Mm-hmm. Right. It's these are and should be solved problems that are not interesting for your use case. It's not worth it to be reinventing the wheel. And it's much better in an enterprise context to be building with bigger blocks.
Yeah, because frankly, and we'll get into this in a later episode, but there are only a few what we call generic requirements. And a requirement from a software point of view means I need a system that does X. That's literally the definition of requirement. I need to be able to submit a form with this field and this field and this field and this field. That's a requirement. Right.
So you're talking about when you're building an enterprise software application, you could look at all the given goals and requirements of the system, all the features that need to be built, and you're saying that they all fall into just a
discrete categories.
A small number of discrete categories.
Yeah.
Generally.
I need a dashboard, aka reporting.
Yeah.
I need a data model, which is basically I need a series of spreadsheets to track orders and then accounts and then this guy, and they need to be able to be linked to each other. I need the ability to search. I need the ability to log in a user. I need the ability to have it so that this user can see this, but this one can't see it. I need the ability to mandate workflows to say that when this action takes place, notify this user and then get a sign off before notifying this user. We'll get more into this later. We're not going to define all the generic requirements now. However, we're going to say that it's overwhelmingly likely that your project is not trying to do anything that is not incredibly common among enterprise applications.
Exactly. And so with low code, right, it's called low code because it's not zero code.
No.
Some code is still being written, but it's a matter of building with bigger blocks in all the places where bigger blocks are enough. And so, okay, blocks,
I need a dashboard.
This is very abstract, right?
Go with the dashboard,
Yeah,
I think.
so like just having a dashboard, you could think of that as just a block, right? Like just put the dashboard there. I want a login screen. I want to manage permissions. I want to send notifications. These are well established, like the best practices behind these, right? Just put it there.
Yeah, I need a dashboard with this chart, and this chart. You're not the first person in the world to write a pie chart.
Yeah, exactly. And
you're just not.
Yeah, and this is using bigger blocks where you need them. And so, low code, it, like everything, has trade-offs, and versus a fully custom app. To go back to this metaphor before, we were saying that a full custom app is like changing every individual atom, having control over every little.
The way that my pie chart opens has an amazing animation.
Yeah,
like choo choo choo.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you do have some of these, let's say, special snowflake requirements, low code does provide escape hatches. All right, so we've now talked about how Agile has failed the enterprise. And we need to talk now about how it is that low code is the solution to this failure of low code. And with low code, we've also talked about how it gives you these higher level building blocks. So you're no longer just manipulating the individual atoms. And through this, you're able to deliver value faster. But the real enemy is with Agile in the enterprise is the deceleration over time of value creation.
Or as velocity is what they call it
Yeah.
in software. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we've
Yeah. Go ahead.
so value deceleration does not disappear completely in low code.
Definitely
We are not
not.
like we want to be extraordinarily clear that you should not expect us to say that your month 13 velocity is going to be identical to month 1. No way.
The surface area is still increasing.
Yeah.
What's changing with low code is a few things. The first is that the productivity of a given developer towards advancing your solution is radically enhanced.
Yeah.
So every developer, there's the given investment that goes into that, right? So the value creation of that investment over time is better maintained. And then additionally,
But why? Why?
it's better maintained because with
I think that they
these
have a
bigger
fundamental
blocks.
constant at the beginning of the day of how many features can be developed in an hour, for example.
Right. So let's say, as a developer, with low code, many of these dependencies that we've been talking about, right? So let's say you're given a feature request as a developer. The amount of mucking around in these details,
Choosing a library.
yeah, like all these little details that you have to manage. So much of that is now resolved for you automatically.
Like I've instanced my data model. I have said that a contact or a person has a first name, a last name, an address, an email address, and a company. And then let's say in the old way in full custom, I now have to go write an API that will pass that data to another application or the user. Just by instancing the data model in, for instance, Salesforce.com or Power Apps, now you have Microsoft Power Apps, that is, it's already created the API for you. Literally,
Right.
all you had to do was say, I have a contact and it has these fields.
Right. So as a developer, you're better able to work in terms of your intent, right? You're like,
That's a good
my
way to put it.
intent is that I want to add a field here, and then your tooling, right? Low code is a set of tooling, is one way to think about it. Your tooling then is able to automatically interpret this intent and do a lot of things for you that you would previously, in a fully custom solution, have had to do all of these yourself. And now so much of that is being delegated to automated tooling.
Yeah, not even the API, but like, how do I make sure that strangers aren't connecting to my API?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have had to write that all by hand.
Yeah. And you're not the first person to have this problem.
No, you're not
Yeah.
the 1,000th.
And so low code is a way to address that. So, okay, we've been talking about the productivity story.
Yeah.
As a developer, with low code, you are able to delegate so much of your problem to automated tooling. But then another piece of the low code story is just on the overall management and like process of organizing people in a software development project. With low code, because developers are so much more productive, you can actually change the methodology as well, because you could get results much faster.
Yeah, and what we're kind of getting at here is the team structure and the communication processes. Which, I mean, we're speaking to a business audience here, so we're kind of assuming that regardless whether you're from IT or you're from the business side or management, that you know that the way to get something done is that this stakeholder talks to this stakeholder and confirms a request here. All these things have to take place.
Exactly. And when the productivity of a developer is lower, that means you need more developers. And when you need more developers, that means that you need kind of like more of other stakeholders who are kind of the middlemen.
Yeah, intermediaries protecting their time.
Right. And every time you add more people to a process, the cost of communication goes up, the cost of collaboration goes up, and the overall velocity of just getting stuff done is going down.
Yeah, it's not just like, oh, there's a third person on payroll, and so from a 2 to a 3 person project, our cost has gone up 50%. No, it's gone much more, because you have, let's say you have person A, B, and C, and that you never allow A and C to talk to each other. A and B have a few communication cycles where they clarify details. Mm-hmm. Then this person goes to person B. And given that we're saying that this middleman does not have all the answers, they're just kind of conveying answers from A to B. So then they have their cycle. And then this developer asks a question that B forgot to ask.
Exactly.
Yeah, now B has to go schedule a meeting with the user again to say, oh, by the way, I forgot to ask you a couple things.
Right. So with low code, when you are able to make it so that one developer is able to do multiple of the work that they were able to do previously.
And we mean like 5-10 times, quite literally.
It can be.
Yeah.
Now the process of how those developers are integrated into the overall creative process of completing this application for your enterprise can be much more efficient, needing much fewer people, much less communication, and those communication costs can be tremendous as a team starts to grow. So you can
and create time delays that get crazy, because you have this developer literally sitting there waiting for requirements.
Yeah, you do not want that.
Yeah.
And
getting paid, racking up bills, doing nothing.
We do not want that. And so low code addresses these issues with Agile. So what we're saying here is we're definitely not saying that Agile is bad. We're saying that Agile alone is not enough.
Well, I think what we're actually saying is that the blind spots that we spoke to with Agile when it comes to consequences that happen down the line and things that aren't foreseen, that low-code tools mitigate, if not eliminate, many of these things.
Right.
And specifically in regards to dependencies.
Right, exactly. So as you push, right, so the value creation curve over time, it will still go down per given unit of input, no matter what you're doing, because the surface area of these dependencies is growing
exponentially. Yeah.
That is a given. But through the use of low code solutions, what you're doing is you are radically delaying and pushing off and reducing that reduction in value creation over time. And I guess to say it more positively, what you are doing is you are doing a much better job of maintaining your velocity of value creation. And through this, the end result is that you, as the business or IT leader in your organization, who is kind of like the champion of a given project, you look like a hero. That's what.
Well, you stay looking like a hero. The sheen does not start to dull.
Yeah. You start off a project and you will not only look like a hero from the early days, but years down the line, and you can continuously point to the success and the impact that you're having. And that's what this is all about. It's about the end impact that you're able to deliver to your organization.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a huge difference. Like the example we gave, a change here is actually going to have an effect on our reports. It's actually going to have effect on our automation workflows. It's actually going to have an effect on the emails we generate and all that. Selling that change request as like this is to be a very software oriented thing as being 300 man hours versus 30 is a huge difference.
Yeah.
A huge difference, especially when people are starting to get used to the fact that, every time it's starting to get to the point where things are slowing down and things cost more and more and more. If you can offset that by a cost factor of 10,
Yeah.
you're going to be able to swim a lot longer.
Yeah.
And not that you're just going to you're treading water waiting to be killed. No.
The whole point of this is not to be treading water.
Yeah.
It's to not get, because you'll have the tide going against you based on these dependencies, right? The tide will come, but
and stronger and stronger and stronger.
Exactly.
Constantly.
But this gives you a much reduced strength of the tide. The strength of with low code, the strength of the tide is radically reduced, and the strength of your arms and legs as you're
swim
swimming
faster
are much better. And and so
like I think a great example is like the company's like, hey, we need to have this on a mobile app. On literally every low code platform I'm familiar with, the mobile app comes with it out of the box.
amazing.
Yeah, one click.
Oh,
Yeah, wow. Wow.
sounds good.
Yeah.
Right, love it. So
You're like, and you can, and imagine that conversation, not just in month 20. Imagine in month 1 when you're like, oh yeah, we built this and by the way, it's on mobile. Already
applause.
there.
Insert
Yeah.
applause.
And then, oh, whoa.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it's a really exciting time. Low code is low code itself is not new, but what is new is the maturity of these tools and the degree to which they've already been proven as like the best way to be building enterprise apps.
Yeah, and that's what's called the technology push approach. And on what's just as important as the demand pull, further the expectations from management and the public
Yeah.
to have your operations in software and digitized for like the 100 reasons why that's a good idea is also growing louder and growing louder and growing louder.
Yeah.
And so that it's both of these factors coming together, which on a typical supply and demand curve mean that the time is now.
Yeah. These solutions are really ready. They've been proving that now, and it's the way forward.
Yeah, and it's the expectation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's now, I think it may have been in the past that it would be seen as kind of risky, let's say, to try some new technology here. However, now I would say that actually the risky decision is not to use these. The risky decision is to be
Oh
left
yeah,
behind
totally
here.
agree. I completely understand what you're saying.
Because what will happen is
Yeah.
just as we said about the failures of Agile in the enterprise, if you start an enterprise project today without using low code tools, in a year, people are going to be asking you why you didn't, and you'll be in trouble.
Yeah. Oh, that's that's such a good point. I would say maybe not in a year people are going to be asking that, but I would say for sure in year 3. Like what is it now? It's 2021. In 2024, definitely you're going to get a guy. Let's talk from the IT perspective. Like let's say we're in the IT department, who's going to be like, yeah, we needed this tool. Why didn't we build this on Power Apps?
Yeah.
Microsoft Power
What were
Apps.
you
Why
guys
didn't
thinking?
we build this on OutSystems?
Yeah.
Why did you? Why are we 1 million man hours into this project, and you're telling me that in order to develop this new report for the sourcing department, that I'm going to need $200,000?
You won't look very smart.
No, and you're going to be like, but yeah,
Yeah. So it's a great time.
it's a good time.
Yeah.
We invite everybody to follow us on all your favorite social channels, YouTube, Facebook.com/Lowcode Podcast. You can get us on Twitter at Lowcode Podcast.
Yeah, we look forward to continuing this journey and discussion with you into low code.
Yeah, and please comment, send us messages. We'd love to answer any of your questions, or if you think we missed anything, give us a shot and we'll be sure to address it.
And if there's any topics you'd like us to talk about, please suggest. We'd love your feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you, everyone.